Good evening, Mr. Bernier. So it's becoming official. The People's Party of Canada is well on the way to being recognized by Elections Canada. So what's the next step for you and your party? What's next? Well, we have to continue building the party. We have to have riding associations in all 338 ridings. That's what we're working on at the moment. We began last week. There are already 43 riding associations formed in a number of provinces. We need to set up about 30 a week to reach our goal, which is by the 31st of December, to have all the PPC riding offices set up. We've tabled our documents, we've submitted them to Election Canada, and we should get their approval as a party within a few weeks. You're still the member for Beauce. You're now sitting as an independent. It's barely a year to the next general election. And you know, a lot of observers are fairly skeptical that you will actually be able to field candidates in 338 ridings. Yes, and that's why we need to have a grounding in all ridings. That's what we're beginning to do now. After that, we'll have nomination meetings for candidates. We'll be starting the candidate search in January, and that will leave us 6 months to find candidates across Canada. We have a good membership so far. We have over 22,000 founding members. That happened in 3 weeks. That's great, given that the Green Party has 25,000 members and has been around for 30 years. So thanks to this membership, we'll be able to field candidates in all ridings. You said you'll start looking for candidates in January. What if the Prime Minister decides to have a by-election in South Burnaby, for example, in BC? Will you be able to field a candidate? Well, I hope so, but I don't know. We need approval from Elections Canada before fielding any candidates. So depending on how long approval takes, we'll be able to set up candidates afterwards and run them in by-elections, absolutely. What about support for the new party? Former members like Mr. Harvey from the Bloc Québécois, Frédéric Nichols from the PC executive in Drummondville. There are members of the established parties who are supporting you, but not really that many. Is there more support ahead? Are there some well-known figures who'll join you? Well, the party's Board of Administration Council is going to be set up within the next few weeks. We'll have people from all parts of Canada, different origins, a range of professional experience. So we will have people, but we're not focusing on getting star candidates. We're focusing on building the organization. In the past few weeks, we've had people writing to us, asking us to run as candidates, and that's something we'll be looking at in January. We've told them we want people from all kinds of sectors, the arts, business. This will all be confirmed in 2019. Are there people in the Conservative Party calling you? Yes. There are former members who left the Conservative Party and have joined us, organizers of the Conservative Party in different ridings. We've come across around 15 who have joined us to help form the PPC riding associations in their ridings. Regarding sitting Conservative members, I don't expect any of them to move across to us because they don't share our philosophy. I will talk about money because that's the crux of it, isn't it? You need the machinery, you need to be able to fund the campaign. In September, when you announced your party's name, you revealed that you already had $100,000 in your coffers. The Liberals, though, spent $43 million in 2015. The Conservatives got $18 million just last year. So how are you going to do to compete with the other two parties? Well, between August 23rd and now, we've managed to raise $350,000. By May, we'd like about $3.5 million. That's our goal. During the election campaign, we're going to do a blitz fundraiser, of course. But this is really quite exceptional because the people donating now can't get a tax receipt yet. So it's a net cost. We're not recognized as a party yet, and nonetheless, in a month and 2 weeks, a month and a half, we've managed to raise over $350,000 without being able to give tax receipts. So lots of people are saying, you know, Maxime, as soon as you're an officially recognized party, I'm going to be donating. So, yes, it will be a challenge, of course, to get the money we need, but we're going to campaign differently as well. We're going to be using social media considerably. We have a slimmed-down organization. We are counting a lot on volunteers across Canada to help us build up the party. When we raise funds, our net cost is much lower than either the Conservative parties or the Liberal parties. We use social media to do our fundraising, and that carries a very low cost. It costs much less than phoning people or writing to them. So we keep more of the money we raise. I don't have any problem with the fact that getting $350,000 since August 23rd without being able to give tax receipts, I think we're well on our way to our $3.5 million. We're going to be spending on the advertising we're going to need. You've had to answer some embarrassing questions recently with regarding people who have linked you to right-wing groups, Tea Party groups. Are you open to funding from them? Absolutely not. I don't know the Koch brothers. They've never contacted me. And making some kind of link between them and the funding for our party is absurd, honestly. We comply with Canadian legislation. People cannot give more than $1,500. Individuals don't. And it's individuals who need to give, not unions, not corporations. We are in compliance with Canadian legislation. The fact that you're asking me about that CBC, those CBC comments, well, I don't think that's serious reporting. I've never had any contact with those people. So the Koch brothers aren't behind the funding for the People's Party of Canada. Absolutely not. Your platform is based on 3 pillars: reducing taxes, reducing immigration. Are you going to have some kind of convention, or are you going to simply go into an election on your platform? Well, people who are joining us because of our ideas. Our platform has a lot of detail on the economy and on the 3 basic principles on which we founded the party: individual responsibility, respect, and freedom, and equity, equality. So these are very important principles. People know what they're joining, and that's why it's easier for us to establish a party. Generally, when you establish a party, you have a conference, and then you have an election platform. We're doing the opposite. We have a platform, the same platform I used when I ran for the Conservative Party leadership 2 years ago. People like the platform. They're joining us because of the platform. But discussing with members, yes, of course, we'd like to have a convention before the next elections. We would discuss the principles that underpin our platforms. But people who are anti-immigration are not welcome. We just want to reduce the number of immigrants. You suggest reducing the number from 300,000 to about 250,000? Approximately, yes. And I'm basing those figures on the final years of the Harper government. We want to focus more on economic immigration to meet Canada's needs. You know that your position on immigration might lead to very anti-immigration or far-right or perhaps racist groups trying to find a home in your party. How do you see movements like Dairy Bell or La Meute, Herzl Levin, the social media has got a lot of followers? Well, as I said, people who are anti-immigration are not welcome in our party. That's very clear. People who promulgate racist ideas are not welcome. Our position is different from that of the major parties. Conservatives and Liberals want to raise the number of immigrants. The Trudeau government wants to raise it to 320,000. In 2 years, it'll be 340,000. And they have received the Burton report, which recommends increasing it to 350,000. We are the only party that wants to reduce those targets, but we want to focus on economic immigrants. That is what Canada needs. Moreover, somebody who has a job integrates more effectively into society, and that's better for the country, it's better for society. With regard to the different platforms, you were talking about Rebel Media and Ezra. Yes, I did do an interview with him. I'm going to use all the platforms available to talk about our ideas. Rebel Media is a different platform. This is a platform too. But you're saying that far-right activists are not welcome in your party. How are you going to stop them or block them? Well, people who are on our party's executives, well, we're going to look at their past and do an investigation. We'll see what they write on social media. Candidates will have to be approved. We're going to have to look at who they are and what they believe in. They will have to believe in the fundamental principles of our party. But you know, they infiltrate you. They could be very successful as that. We are going to engage an outside firm to check their backgrounds. Other parties don't do background checks. That will be important to our party. The candidates will have to sign a statement and allow us to have an investigation conducted on their background by an outside firm. Candidates will be screened. They'll have to have a background check done. So you'll be doing your due diligence to make sure that you don't have extremists or candidates who might prove to be an embarrassment. Yes, because as you say, it is a risk. We're going to manage that risk very professionally and hire an independent firm to do background checks. See what they've done on social media, their criminal records, and so on and so forth. We want to make sure that the candidates who represent us believe in our ideas. What about your views on the Quebec election last week? How do you explain the CAQ's very clear victory? Well, in these elections and in New Brunswick, which had an election shortly before Quebec, what it shows me is that the people of those two provinces wanted change. People are saying no to the old parties, the Parti Québécois, the Quebec Liberal Party, and the same thing happened in New Brunswick. So, to me, that says there is room for a new party, a party that does politics differently, and the best way of proving it to Canadians is not trying to appeal to everyone the way the Liberals and Conservatives do, and certainly not to take taxpayers' money and buy special interest votes with them. I'm the only person that has a pro-consumer position in the House of Commons. I don't think we should be trying to please interest groups like the other parties do. And I think that momentum that we've seen carrying the CAQ to power will persist. Ontario's gone conservative. Alberta might go conservative in the next election. Quebec has elected the CAQ. Everybody is seeing that as a wind favorable to conservatives blowing in the provinces. What do you think? Well, it's favorable to people who want major change, and we're the only party that's proposing major change. The Liberal Party and the Conservative Party are both saying that we need politics to help the poor. But at the end of the day, when you end up with higher prices because you have cartels for milk and cheese and butter, how is that going to help the poor? What about abolishing subsidies to companies? Is that actually going to happen? Parties that promote the creation of regional agencies, how is that going to work? We have very clear and consistent ideas. We want to eliminate subsidies to corporations. Our policies are clear, and they do bring real change. I believe that that's the kind of change that people will be happy to have in Canada in a year. What do you think about the CAQ's policy to ban conspicuous religious symbols among teachers and people in positions of authority? You believe in individual freedom. What do you think of that? Well, we'll end up having to see what the CAQ's official position is. The election campaign revealed some contradictory positions. Even yesterday, the CAQ presented a more flexible position. Well, I'd like to hear the official position of the CAQ government before I comment. When the CAQ suggests it might use the notwithstanding clause to reduce individual liberty, well, I think they would do that at their own risk. There is, of course, a notwithstanding clause in the Canadian Constitution. There would be nothing illegal about them, but it is a legal and political measure. And I believe that in the end, it is they who will be judged by their own citizens on how they use the notwithstanding clause. It's perfectly legal to use it, but should they use it? That's a debate that they will soon have at the National Assembly. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't say you mustn't use it. All I would say is if you use it, you will use it at your own risk. As politicians, you'll have to assume responsibility for what you do. Yes, but as leader of the People's Party of Canada, you are saying that you need to be very careful, and it should be a measure of last resort. Well, there have been debates recently in Ontario, for example. It's a legitimate position. If the CAQ wishes to use it, it's a legitimate position. The clause is in the Constitution so that it can be used, up to them to decide whether you use it. I'd like to come back to your departure from the Conservative Party. You had some very hard things to say about it, internationally, intellectually rather, and morally corrupt is what you call them. Do you think you went too far? No, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the decision that I made. I think we have the wind in our sails. When I said intellectually and morally corrupt, it's because we're supposedly promoting conservative values, but what's really happening is we're creating a cartel, supply management, which is a socialist system, and a great many of the Conservative MPs had said to me that they agreed with abolishing the cartel and letting the prices of milk and eggs come down. But publicly, they're not saying it, and that's utterly hypocritical, I feel. People expect politicians to have convictions and to support and express those convictions publicly. My colleagues in the party would tell me that I was right on my stance, but I can't say so publicly, and I think that's morally corrupt. You believe in principles, you say it, and you tell the people what you think and what you believe. So you would use that the same words. You'd say it all over again. Absolutely. I'm very happy with how I left. When I said what I did, nobody talked about the substance of what I said. When I said the Conservative Party was running a bunch of focus groups and polls to decide what their position should be, well, how is that a party based on conservative principles? To me, an idea is a good idea when it's based on liberty and responsibility, on those conservative principles. And my objective as a politician, if 30% of people share my ideas, well, then let's work to bring in more. But what the Conservative Party is doing, I think they've lost sight of their basic philosophy, and they're governing by polls. They're setting policy by poll. Your former colleagues are accusing you of dividing the right and actually helping Justin Trudeau get elected. Well, before I resigned, I said the Conservative Party is at 31% in the polls and Mr. Trudeau is at 39%. So Andrew Scheer wasn't winning even then. What I'd say to those Conservatives is if they really want a party that stands for conservative principles, they should come and join us. We also want to appeal to the people who didn't vote. 30% of Canadians did not vote because they don't believe in politicians. They don't believe politicians. They think it's all the same. And I think they should listen to us. We're not afraid of stating things as they are, and we're not establishing our position on the basis of what people want to hear. So we could go get those 30%. We could appeal to Liberals who come join us because they no longer believe in the balanced budget party. This is now tax and spend. So we could have people from other parties who want real change joining us. I'd like to hear your comments about NAFTA 2.0. You did make it clear you are against supply management. So the Canadian government did cede some market share in dairy to U.S. producers. Do you agree with the way in which the government negotiated the USMCA? I think it's a very bad idea to give them those 4%. I think that the whole supply management system should be abolished because it's bad for Canadian consumers who are going to keep paying twice as much as they need to for dairy products. And it's not good for producers working under a supply management system. They make great products. They should be able to export them, but they can't. It's also not good for taxpayers because the Canadian government will have to compensate producers whose market share they gave away. You're paying producers not to produce. So you think that there is an opening in the system? Yes, they got an agreement, but there'd have been a better agreement if we had been willing to eliminate supply management. We might have ended up with the U.S. scrapping the tariffs on aluminum and steel. I think we'd have got a better agreement. But that breach into supply management doesn't appeal to anybody, really, and you end up with a government paying producers not to produce. So you think no deal would have been better than this bad deal? No, we need an agreement. We needed a deal, but we could have had a better deal if we had been willing to put an end to supply management. Now, with the agreement we have, it is better than having none. So in the House of Commons, of course, I voted for the agreement because it makes it possible to put an end to uncertainty. There was a lot of it. Business people were hesitating. They weren't investing in Canada. Investment today is jobs tomorrow. We know that. I have two more questions. Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister, has published a book. He wrote a column in the Globe and Mail, and he warns political leaders not to ignore the real concerns of Canadians and to make sure that they pay attention to the genuine discomfort that is leading to populism. That's basically what he says in his book. So you think you're meeting that need with the People's Party of Canada? Yes, we are meeting that need. We are responding to the concerns of people who want to pay lower taxes, who want less immigration, who want no subsidies, no corporate subsidies. There are a lot of people who want less immigration, 40% of Canadians, and we're the only party that stands for that. We are here for the Canadian people and not for special interest groups like the two other old parties are. I'm not saying I'm not a populist politician, but it's a serious platform, and we're not trying to appeal to people's emotion to get their votes. We're trying to appeal to their intelligence, and that is what sets us apart from the radicals. So you're starting from scratch. 338 candidates in riding across Canada. You need your whole election machinery in place. So that's a lot to get done. What will it take for you to say, mission accomplished a year from now? Well, in a year, we'll see how we do in the elections. We do want to be the alternative. We want to be the real alternative, the free market alternative to the Trudeau government. And the way we will assess how successful we've been, we'll look at the members we've recruited, the support we have from Canadians. Stage by stage, we will get there. We've got through the first step. We already have associations being set up. We're going to be looking for candidates. And in May, once I've got my 338 candidates, that's going to be part of success. We will need the funding to run a good election campaign, and then on we go. And we will continue watching. Thank you very much.